Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today on this episode, we're going to talk about how I accidentally rewired my anxious attachment into a secure one. And this episode's really going to land for you if when there is space in your relationship, whether it's intentional or unintentional, you automatically tend to fill that space with worry, with overthinking, with thinking they don't like me, they don't love me anymore. It's also going to really land for you if you do trust your person, you do trust the love, but it gets a little wobbly. You feel wobbly inside when you're not together. You feel like the moment you're not together, or if it's an extended period of time, that love or that interest or that like is just going to kind of fizzle out or disappear. And one of the big things I noticed for myself, one of the big costs for me was I felt like I couldn't have any space for me. It would even end up, I would lose track of the things that I really cared about, or doing things for myself, or saying yes to things with friends or hobbies that I typically would spend a lot of time doing. And so the cost of doing that is you tend to lose yourself in the relationship. You feel like whenever you get into a relationship, you lose this sense of yourself, or the moment you start liking somebody, you kind of lose all reckless abandon in what you like. So if that is you, then this episode, and not only this episode, but this podcast in general, is going to land for you a lot. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I love helping high achieving, high performing girlies who are, maybe you are climbing the career ladder. Maybe you have a bunch of letters behind your name. Maybe you're an academic. Maybe you're an entrepreneur who is building a big business. And while on paper you are super successful out there in the world in your career, you are struggling with feeling connected, feeling like you're getting enough reassurance, feeling like your overthinking is manageable or you're able to handle it with a good partner. So if that is you, I have totally been there, and I'm going to talk about that today. And if this episode or any other episode is landing, hitting the 5 stars takes 2 seconds. It is your high five to me, and it feels, I'm just talking to the camera here, but I am in your earbud, and I just appreciate that so much. And if you are interested in learning how to rewire, which we're going to talk about today, in my community, this is exactly what we do. It's not a logical, there is logic to it. There's a process, but we really combine the learning from experience into my community, because knowing is one thing. Like, I knew that I wanted to be secure, but how did I actually do it? It was something that I had to experience, and it's also what I teach in my community. So that being said, a couple of things that are related to that, I feel, is this upcoming weekend, where I think actually by the time this episode drops, I will be coming back from it. But I have fully committed to being a part of my, 501c volunteer community. And I've been doing this work with this community for a couple of years now. Wow, years now. I think I started right before COVID, so 2019, tail end of 2019, and Craig started in 2020. So we've been doing this for a while now. And one thing that is pretty amazing to me is, and why I've committed to volunteering and saying yes in a bigger way, is this is just a tenet of who I am and what I really believe about our growth. And if you want to change your anxious attachment into secure, then this definitely is about growth. And what I've learned in my way of, in the past, thinking that, okay, if I can just get to this level, then I'll be happy. And for me, that looked like when I was in fitness. Okay, if I can just get this handstand, or if I can get, back in the day, competed in fitness, if I could just get these shoulders to look a little bit more muscular, I thought that would make me happy. And what I've actually learned is accepting growth, that the process for me, the exploration, creating new awarenesses, that is actually the place where I find the most peace and joy. So that's a little update on that. And it's also, I hope to just share a little bit of that insight and inspire you that this is not a destination. Like, being in a body and having experiences which lead you to have anxious attachment, that it doesn't get better if you close your eyes and just la 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 la, like hope it goes away. And I know this to be true too, because even when I was early on in my relationship and marriage with Craig, I definitely had layers. And it was so interesting because even though I knew he was consistent and safe, and yes, of course, we did have our obstacles to work through together with him being a little bit more avoidant. But one thing that has helped, and I look back when we were first dating, even the first 2 to 3 years, one thing that has helped us to grow closer together was just my desire to keep growing, and not just because of my relationship, because that's just a tenet and a pillar and part of who I am, that growth is important and enjoying the process. And I think about, as a yogi, it's not just about the end shape, it's actually about the practice. It's a practice. So for me, I'm really excited to step into this next layer of being committed on a volunteer level, of really dedicating my time to growth, because it's part of the process. And I just also see this reflected in my clients, the ones that come to me, one-on-one clients I'm specifically talking about, when they're in relationship, and they've been in relationship, I'd say for maybe even 1, 2, even sometimes 3 years or more, it becomes obvious that because they haven't addressed their anxious attachment before, it's really impacting a good partner that they want to be with, because they just thought, I don't know, like we're here, we're dedicated to each other, we're committed, and like I should feel better now. So, and some of us find out that that's not going to cut it. We need to grow more. So that's what's exciting. That's coming up on my front. Also, I just want to give a shout out to one of my one-on-one clients. It's been so fun. I love my one-on-one clients too. And what I've loved is giving them a little shout out here, because I'm seriously so blown away by the transformation that my clients create in their lives. And I was thinking about my client A, we'll call her, and we had a call this week and we realized, wow, it's been a year, and what a difference a year makes. And we were just kind of rehashing when she decided that, yes, I need to change something. She was in fact in Colorado. She's not from Colorado, but she was here for a wedding, and they had this amazing weekend in Colorado, and she almost just threw a grenade in there where she was kind of getting in her own way. She was overthinking a lot. This amazing getaway to beautiful Colorado was being kind of jacked by her anxious attachment, overthinking, and it's trying to self-sabotage and all these things. And it was so cool to rehash that with her this week, that not only is that a thing of the past, but they are looking at rings, super exciting. And not only that, but she's building her own business, and we started exploring what it looks like for her to build her legacy with her partner, which seems to be a theme, I feel, in my world right now, building legacy and building a life in partnership with a partner. But super proud of her, and it's just been such a long journey for her to get to this point. So you go, A. Okay, so I want to talk about how I accidentally rewired my anxious attachment into a secure one. And it seems up for review because this was pretty obvious to me. This happened in 2021, I believe. Yeah, because no, my apologies. This happened in 2017 because Craig and I were together for about a year at this point. So in 2017, I was heavy into yoga. I was teaching a lot. I had also committed to a 500-hour yoga teacher training with my teacher. And I had committed to it. I had gotten really excited about my practice and like where I wanted to go at that time with my teaching and what I wanted as a yoga teacher. And then I realized, oh crap, this is a 2-year commitment where essentially almost every quarter, maybe a little even more than that, I would be going not just not every weekend, but pretty extensive periods of time away from Craig. And to me, it was so interesting because the former me, 1 year into dating, I was definitely still of the mindset that distance meant danger, and less about his distance. We were getting a handle on that, but just whether that was literal physical distance or feeling emotional distance. If you didn't know, we were also, when we started dating, we were long distance ish. So definitely at this point in time, we had not lived together. I think we had just moved in together, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I signed up for this thing. I can't get the money back. I'm really committed to doing this 2 year adventure in my 500-hour yoga teacher training. And I'm going to be spending weekends, extensive weekends away. And it was really a point and a juncture in my life where I had to really look through what I was making up around distance and danger. And one thing that I had to really work through was the impact of that way of thinking. And it was pretty obvious too. We had just moved in. Things were getting serious, right? Like we're moving in, and in my world that meant like, hey, we're I don't just move in with anybody. I'm not playing house. And the reality of that was that the longer that I stayed in that loop of that belief system, that distance meant danger, it really made me realize that we were losing love. That to me, if I couldn't be okay with him having his thing and me having my thing on a bigger and deeper level, that it was only going to cause more friction and more disconnection. And not only that was it the impact on the relationship, but I also recognized that if I didn't change that pattern of thinking, that suppressing myself, when we suppress ourselves for connection, we hold back our ability to get closer. And connections thrive when we can fully express ourselves, not suppress ourselves. And when I signed up, I don't know, and I guess in a way I talk a lot sometimes on this podcast around self-sabotage. This was a way that I self-sabotage myself for the better, truly, where I would have thought initially, oh, I can't spend weekends away from him. Like we moved in, and we're supposed to be together, right? We're supposed to spend all our time together, right? And it was just so clear to me that yoga at that point in time was really important to me. Still is important now, but in a different way. But if I couldn't express myself in this passion of mine, and if I didn't go all the way with it, I would have been holding myself back. I would have been suppressing myself. And I noticed that actually our connection really grew. He respected so much that I was teaching. And whenever I would come back, he would have a lot of love, and I felt closer to him because I gave him space. And it was also interesting too, because now that the town that I had that training in, it was consistently in a town in Colorado. It's now one of our favorite towns. And I look at how I kind of know it like the back of my hand. I love going there. And now it's a really special place for him and I, because I was able to let loose and I was able to explore. I was able to go deeper within myself. I was able to grow. And in that, we got closer. And I think the thing that had to flip in my mind is that distance is actually the thing that can deepen your connection. Because again, before, my fear was that distance would make us distant. And what I didn't realize is that distance, my ability to express myself, to grow, to be more connected to what was important to me, actually deepened our connection. And it felt like it was something that he honestly, I'm finding myself wow, I'm saying this word, but he admired that about me. He admired that I had this thing going on for myself that I was fully dedicated to. And I could feel that from him. So that's kind of the thing that I noticed was really healthy for both of us. For me to have my own thing, for me to literally go away and be dedicated, it actually deepened our connection. And this is literally, I had to experience that. One thing I know about me is that I am an experiential learner. You know what I mean? I was the kid that had to touch the glowy orange thing inside the toaster. Even though my family said that's gonna burn, I had to be the one that was gonna touch it and be like, sizzle, sizzle. And that's also just stayed really true for me in my adulthood. I had to experience things. And it's also what I feel one of the most powerful conduits for actually learning is not just seeing, hearing, listening, it's doing. And it's also something that we do in my community, the Healing Girl Gang, where so basically all of it is structured around you experiencing feeling safe during that distance. So something that I'm really passionate about. And yeah, speaking of Healing Girl Gang, let's answer some questions around the Healing Girl Gang, not just the Healing Girl Gang, my apologies, but let's answer some questions from the Healing Girl Gang, because one of the cool benefits of being in the community is that not only do you get trainings, deep dive trainings on things like self-sabotage or overthinking, or implementation days where we literally teach you the tools tangibly, overthinking detox, where again, it's mini steps for you to experience in your body how to feel safe, but you also get support. And one of the cool ways I do it is through the podcasts and also in the trainings. But let's go to Huda. Huda's got a very short one, so we'll work with it. I haven't seen him in 2 weeks. Why do I overthink and say he's seeing someone else? Is that normal, or my thoughts just eating me alive? So one thing, well, this is like literally one sentence. So Huda, well, let's break this down into a couple of pieces. Why do you overthink? Because it's a strategy. Overthinking is a strategy that you've learned to use that is keeping you safe. It's helped you to survive. And I will just relate this to also a lot of my listeners, and especially my clients one-on-one and in the community. Y'all are smart. Like when we have calls, I'm curious, like, what do you guys do? And people they're directors of big Fortune 500 companies. They have books of business of $10 million. They're smart. Lawyers, doctors, nurses, like really, really smart. And thinking, being logical, got you somewhere. It got you to a place of success in your career and life that really supported you. But the tough thing is, in love, in connection, in intimacy, those strategies don't work. And so it makes sense. Like if you spend 40 hours a week doing work, which requires you to be logical, to process, to manage, to lead, then you're doing that for 40 hours. So the reality of relationship, that it's not a push or a logical knowing, it's a feeling. So why are you overthinking? You're trying to stay safe. You're trying to figure out what's going to happen next. You're trying to maybe blame yourself, or if I'm the problem, what could I do better, right? And so that could be one of the many reasons why you're overthinking. And I mean, also you say he's seeing somebody else. Okay, do you have the evidence? Like, do you have the proof? And it's because it's one thing to have clear, okay, well, we didn't establish that we're committed. I've noticed that he hides his phone. I don't know, whatever would make you think and see actually tangibly that he is seeing somebody else. That's one thing. But if it's something that you're just making up in your head and you have no evidence around and their actions have told you otherwise, then yeah, you're probably overthinking for something that has nothing to do with the external reason about the other person. It might be something that you're doing to yourself. And yeah, when those strategies are running amok, it does feel like you're eating yourself alive. It does feel like your overthinking is in overdrive, because it probably is. And the reality is, if you are in that strategy, a lot of times because there's multiple things going on, you probably don't know or haven't learned a different strategy or a better strategy to self-soothe, to trust yourself, to regulate your body, to regulate your thoughts, to communicate. I mean, there's so many things that could be happening that are not. And not because you're not smart or talented or have capability. It's more of a capacity thing, is often what I notice, that we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So great news is that you're inside the Healing Girl Gang. And one thing that I also will say is that it just takes showing up. It just takes showing up. It just actually takes participation. And when I see, in fact, I was reflecting on one of my members in the Healing Girl Gang, and she has been hacking at it for a while now, like 7 or 8 months. And she was like, wow, I've really changed. She has noticed that her overthinking is way more manageable, that she's feeling more connected, that her overthinking's gone down. And yeah, it's because she shows up, she participates, she puts herself in the game and on the court. So when you participate, when you are active in the process of healing, when you, I'll even just go back to yoga. I mean, a lot of these principles that I teach have very yogic underpinnings of that. It's practice. You show up. If you want to handstand, you got to practice it a few times. You got to do the drills, the tools. You have to learn how to straighten your arms, how to get your core strong, and then put it all together. And all that starts with showing up to practice. So I'm sending you lots of love. You're getting that support in the Healing Girl Gang. I'm sending all of you love too. Mwah.